The Toronto Maple Leafs have massive changes coming, with Brad Treliving having a huge decision to make this offseason, with key UFAs set to hit the open market. And we have a Leafs insider revealing their plan B going into the offseason. We have a lot to break down in this episode, Darius, so we should just hop straight into that today, where we did get an article coming out from Jonas Siegel on talking about Mitch Marner leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs in free agency and what is their plan B. Now, looking at this team, we know they have a lot of key guys to sign within this roster. You can pause and look at the players that they have signed for next year and the roster that CapFriendly, or Puckpedia, has filled out. But looking at some key UFAs, we can see guys like Matthew Knies as an RFA, Nick Robertson, and Pontus Holmberg. Looking at this list first, who are some must-bring backs within this Leafs organization, in your opinion?
Well, from just the names that are listed here in this list, I think we're going to go 2 for 2. I think Matthew Knies is definitely going to be re-signed. And again, it could get a little weird with some offer sheets. Apparently, a lot of people are, naming this summer the summer of offer sheets. So it could get a little messy for not just the Leafs, but some other teams. So, try to avoid that. Get him signed. That's a no-brainer to me. It just depends on, how much he wants to make. And we had another video on that in terms of, is it going to be a long-term contract, a bridge? I think that his agent probably wants a bridge so he can make more long-term. So we'll see how that shapes up. And Steven Lorentz, he's been fantastic on the fourth line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And in terms of the other two guys, just to wrap it up quickly, I mean, Nick Robertson requested a trade last summer. He said that he doesn't really want one anymore, but I don't know where he fits on this team moving forward, especially if the Leafs have Stanley Cup aspirations year after year. Maybe if Mitch Marner doesn't return, and we're going to get into the plan B in a second, it could make more sense. But if all of that falls through, maybe you keep him on the second line, but I don't think you're a better team for it, or even, the same team if he's on your second line. So wouldn't do that. And Pontus Holmberg, I think he's a very smart hockey player, but honestly, he struggled under Craig Berube's system. And again, I don't know if he has a defined role on this team. It doesn't do anything specific for the team, if that makes sense. He doesn't really have a defined role in the team. So I don't see him returning, but again, we'll see. The Leafs do have to fill out the lineup.
And just to look at the offer sheet thing, listen, Matthew Knies has been incredible, and I'm really worried that if he does get offer sheet and if he does walk, it might be the situation the Edmonton Oilers went through with Dylan Holloway, where we're seeing on an absolute tear with the hottest team in the NHL in the St. Louis Blues. But the biggest thing is, listen, we know Mitch Marner is going to hit the open market. He might return to this Leafs team, but it does seem like signs are pointing towards him wanting to hit the market and see his value. Looking at this, we do know Marner leaving could mean a full-time top lineup of William Nylander, Austin Matthews, and if we get Matthew Knies back on his contract, could be a top line. But looking at some targets for this team, Darius, there's a lot of guys that do make sense and a lot of guys that could make sense. Now, the first one being Brock Boeser. Brock Boeser, a bigger winger with 11 goals and 23 points in 29 career postseason games. The biggest thing to look at with Brock is he is Captain Clutch in Vancouver. You've seen in the intro video, he scored a hat trick to tie the game versus the Nashville Predators in the dying seconds. Now, they do say, and a lot of reporters are going out, that they think he could get $8 to $9 million as a starting point in the open market. And looking at the contract comparable as well and the projection with the length, they do have him at about a 49% chance to sign $7.1 million AAV. Looking at Brock Boeser, what is your thoughts on him potentially joining the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, I think it could be a great plan B. Like, is he Mitch Marner? No, but he's still a younger option that could sign fairly long term, and we know that he can score 40 goals. And I mean, he did that on Vancouver last year. And I mean, if he came over to the Leafs, he'd be playing with some pretty good players still. He'd probably be playing with maybe Austin Matthews, right, on Austin Matthews' wing, maybe with Matthew Knies as well. So, I'm sure he could put together another 40-goal season playing with those guys, or at least a bunch of points, right? And he could be another weapon for the Leafs power play as well. Again, not the greatest season by his standards, I guess, this year. We've seen him put up more points and more goals before. But, if he's going to make $9 million, it's still cheaper than what Mitch Marner's asking for. You're not going to replace that production like one-to-one, but he is going to put up a lot of points for you. So that could be an option. Again, the projection, and shout out to Scotia, projections again, has him around 7 million. I think it's going to be maybe a little bit more than that. If you look at some of the other comparables, he's in good company there. So I think it could be a really, really good option for the Leafs. I forgot that he was only 28 years old, right? I thought he was much older. So when everyone's bringing up Brock Boeser, I'm like, I don't know about that, but I just realized he's 28 years old. So he would be a very good option in that way. And He's not that old, still has some legs. Yes, he's dealt with some injury troubles, but I think the Leafs, this would be a very good option for them because Tavares would be making less. You got to give some of that salary to Matthew Knies, of course. But if Boeser's only making maybe $8 million, you're saving a lot of money still.
And the biggest thing is, listen, looking at the numbers, Leafs fans are going to say 24 goals, paying him $8 to $9 million. This is not worth it. We've seen Brock have a career year last year, 40 goals with his Canucks team, being the biggest part in the postseason for him before going down with an injury. And the key thing with Brock, and it has been for quite some time, is the fact that he does get injured sometimes throughout the season. We've seen it twice last year, once this year. He thrives with a playmaker on his line, and he hasn't really had that with JT Miller leaving. And listen, this is not a Canucks video, so I'm not going to get into that. But the numbers aren't showing what Brock can actually bring to this team. He's not the best defensively. He's not going to be a hard forward checker, but this guy does bring what every team needs, and that's elite goal scoring. So he does fit within the system if you look this way. But when we're looking at this Leafs team, I know, listen, theoretically, you could bring in Patrick Kane, Matt Duchene, and we're going to touch on Duchene. Appleton, looking at this, is there any just key guys that you want to bring up, Darius, that you do think would fit the best on this Leafs team if Mitch does leave?
I think Matt Duchene, maybe not replacing Mitch Marner. I think Brock Boeser would be more of the replacement for that. And again, it wouldn't be 1-to-1 in terms of defense, in terms of point production, but I think it would be a good option to replace him if Mitch Marner does walk. And I think Chicago could be an option for Mitch Marner too. I feel like they're going to back up the Brinks truck to try and sign a guy like that to retain the services of Connor Bedard. But Matt Duchene, I do like this player as well. He has pretty good production. Obviously, he's playing in Dallas, another elite team. He can come in and be that third line center, right? Because the contract he's on right now is very affordable. You'll be saving money again. This is all hypothetical and speculation of Mitch Marner where to leave, but you'd be saving money on Mitch Marner that you can use on Matt Duchene to bring him in. He has that experience of going deep in the playoffs before, and again, he could fill in that third line center position. So then other guys like Domi can move elsewhere in the lineup. You have Scott Laughton still, who hasn't really worked out at center, so that fills out your lineup still as well. The Leafs are in a pretty good spot. I think they can retool in the offseason. I say retool, I mean most of the team is going to be back and going to be the same minus maybe a player or two. So I think they're in a good spot, and I think Matt Duchene there, adding him would be a good option too. I don't think he takes over for John Tavares as we've seen, this season. John Tavares is still an elite player, right? He's putting up 34 goals, 35 goals actually, excuse me, and he could be on his way to 40 still with a handful of games left. And foot speed has always been an issue with him. I don't even think he's getting slower. I think he's just the same speed. He's almost the same player. He's having a fantastic season. So I don't see that being a problem yet, maybe 2 years down the road. But again, I think that you're in a Stanley Cup window for the next 2 to 3 years anyway. So if you can go out and get Matt Duchene, I think that would be a good depth option for the Leafs. So something to consider because I don't think the cap hit would be that much. And you could fill out the lineup, I think, pretty nicely with the cap you'd be saving from not signing Mitch Marner if it were to go down that way. But again, by all accounts, that's the number one priority for the team. But we'll see what happens come July 1st, I guess.
And the biggest thing is, listen, Matt Duchene could fill in if John Tavares does slow down a bit. We see guys that slow down move to the wing, so maybe we see Matt Duchene take over the second line center with Tavares moving to the wing. But Leafs fans, what's your thoughts on all this? Would you like to see a guy like Brock Boeser join this team? Would you rather see Matt Duchene? Maybe a guy we didn't talk about. Go down and leave a comment. Listen, obviously you're going to put Connor McDavid and all these guys, but be realistic on this situation. I know it's April Fool's today, but looking at this, what's your guys' thoughts? Go down and leave a comment below. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We're going to be back with another episode today, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host Darius, and take care.